Hey everybody, this is Jason Alba. Hopefully the audio is good. When I was doing an audio check, it didn't look so awesome. So a couple of new things today, new developments. So first of all, right around here, there's no more watermark from StreamYard. I actually purchased the upgrade on that, which I'm super excited about. Not because I needed to get rid of the watermark, it didn't really bother me, but one of these days I'll have my own watermark and that'll be way cool. Also, I'm streaming on Facebook, apparently. I don't know for sure, but I think I am. And I'm excited to move into Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So anyways, if you're wondering, the technology is StreamYard.com, and apparently it's pretty awesome. Like, I'm pretty happy with it so far. So what we're doing today is we're continuing the conversation about soft skills and professional development during the month of April 2020, which will go down in history as the month when everybody stayed home. This is the time when governments shut down restaurants and gyms and salons and malls and shopping, and you know, we had to stand in line to get into Costco, which was weird. I found out that last weekend I read that Walmart and Home Depot were going to do the same thing. I haven't experienced that yet. I actually haven't been out all week, so I'm fine to just sit here and not go out. Anyways, what I've been doing during the month of April is just kind of every day at 10 my time, going over one of the topics of my courses and on Pluralsight. And it nicely coincided with what Pluralsight calls Free April, which is their first time that they've ever given away their entire library for the entire month. So they've had free weekends before here and there, but this is the first time that they're saying, hey, you know what, all month long, go get on. So you can come into pluralsight.com and hopefully find a button or a link or whatever to get free access. Otherwise, if you can't find it, go to jibberjobber.com/blog, and then all the posts that I have so far this month, I have links to the exact place to go find the sign up form to get Pluralsight for free. So Pluralsight was developed by developers, really for developers, how to. If you look at the top courses right now, it's how to Python, intro to JavaScript and Java. And I think it is until you get to the 10th most popular course right now that it's not necessarily programming, it's on ethical hacking. But this is it's a library for programmers, right? And years ago, they came to me and they said, hey, you're an expert on LinkedIn, you have a book on LinkedIn, you go around the country speaking on LinkedIn. We would love for you to do a course on LinkedIn. And it's a long story and it's outside of what I want to talk about today, but I eventually started really getting serious about creating courses really for developers. Like, that's the main audience there. And so a lot of times I will talk to developers, but my courses are principle based, right? And so the courses that I have are for really anybody. And because they're principle based, it doesn't matter what your role is, and a lot of these things don't go out of fashion. Even when I talk about LinkedIn and stuff like that, like the technologies change, but the principles of communication and branding and stuff like that don't change. So this is the 10th out of, I guess, 30 that I'll do. And the topic today is on effective email communication. So I really thought when I did this course on effective email communication, this was going to be another dud. This was going to be one of the courses that were the lowest performing courses that I'd ever done, because who wants to watch a course on how to write emails? And I thought it was, I wasn't excited about doing the course, to be honest with you. Well, I went through a couple of months ago and I redid the course. I needed to make some updates, and I took it from, I think, 90 minutes down to 60 minutes or 61 minutes or something like that. And I updated the look and feel, and I'm really happy with this course. And I actually, when I went through it, I was happy with what I had. I was pleasantly surprised that it was better than what I was kind of thinking it was. But also I was really happy with what I came up with in January of this year. So instead of doing what I've done for the other 9 days so far this month and talking about like a summary of my courses and what I've done, I decided I'm going to shake it up a little bit today, and I am going to I'm actually going to share a PowerPoint, which is kind of fun. Like I said, StreamYard.com, really cool technology. So with this PowerPoint, instead of going into what my course is about, which by the way, you can get for free at pluralsight.com, what I wanted to do is just share 5 really what I call the worst emails and 5 of the best emails. And I went out and to look for some inspiration online, and I found plenty of posts about the worst emails. And the worst email posts were kind of funny because they were like, I wrote this thing to my boss who I was having a relationship with, and I instead of sending it to my boss, I sent it to the whole company, and unfortunately their wife worked there, and so that was really awkward, right? There's a whole bunch of those examples that are like risque and weird and stuff like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give very specific examples of somebody who did a specific thing. I'm going to talk about types. So this is really the worst types of emails. And then I want to talk about the 5 best emails. If you go look up the best emails on Google, what you'll find is lists of like newsletters and marketing emails. And I'm not trying to teach you to become an email marketer. I just want to help you write better emails, especially in a corporate environment. So without further ado, let's jump in. The 5 worst types of emails. The first one is absolutely and definitely the long email. And when I get a long email, I do what you probably do. I go into, I don't respond. I don't read it. I save it for when I have time, right? So when do you have time? I never have time. I end up with, well, right now I have thousands and thousands of emails sitting in my inbox. I have 2 inboxes, one for Jibber Jobber and one for personal, and I'm on both of those all day long. And a lot of the emails that I haven't read yet or replied to or even thought about are the long emails that I will read when I get time. And man, I'm telling you what, nobody gets time. Nobody gets time. So I'm not saying that you can't write long emails. Long emails have a purpose, but if it's your first communication to someone and they don't know why they should read your email, why they should be hearing from you, why this topic is interesting to them, or anything like that, your long email is probably going to get saved for later. The other thing I've found is that nowadays we don't really read things, right? Like this morning I wrote a blog post on jibberjobber.com/blog about the winter of your career during this coronavirus time. And people are like putting their career on hold, or people aren't, but the environment is putting our career on hold. And I realize that it's a really long blog post. I haven't written a blog post this long for a long time. And I know that people are not going to read it. People are going to skim it because that's what we do. So even the other bad part about writing a long email is that people are going to not get the whole thing. So if they're not going to get the whole thing, don't write the whole thing. All right. So bad email number 1 is the long email. Bad email number 2 is the email that starts off with, Dear Sir, to whom it may concern. Sometimes I get emails that say Dear Alba, which is my last name, which is funny. I know why they're doing that. They have a list, a database that they bought, and instead of realizing that Alba is my last name, they think Alba is my first name. And that's great for me because as soon as I hear or I read Dear Alba, Dear Sir, or to whom it may concern, I got one thing in mind: delete. How do I get rid of this email? Because if they don't know me well enough to say Jason, or even just not even have a beginning of an email and just jump right into it, that's an immediate red or a yellow flag for me. I'm not so dumb that I'll just immediately go delete all of those, but it's the first red flag where if I skim through the rest and I see other red flags, then I'll go back and I'm like, all right, this is obviously junk. So that the second one is the email that we really aren't like respectfully addressing the person. When I say respect, I'm not talking about Mr. and Sir and ma'am and all that stuff. I'm talking about respecting them as a human and communicating in a way that's appropriate. Now, I actually had a dialogue with somebody a few weeks ago now that is coming out of the military, and they're like, well, I don't feel comfortable you being so casual. And I'm like, you know what? In your environment and with your background, be as formal as you need to be. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that. But to be honest with you, most everybody else who is really formal like that is from a different country, and they're usually coming at me with something to pitch that's really off brand or off message. And so the informally started emails, for me, that's a yellow or a red flag. The next email is what we'll call the Rambler email. And this is not the, I live in, where do I live? I guess I live in the West. I don't live in the Midwest. I'm in Utah. So in Utah, and I hadn't heard about this word until I moved here, but Rambler, or maybe it's just because I became an adult here and that's when it was relevant to me, but a Rambler is a house where you walk, it's not a two-story. It's like everything's on the main level. And here in Utah, we have basements, but that's still a Rambler. But if you go look up Rambler, the verb, it is basically kind of what I've been doing on my live videos, just talking on and on and on and on. And so the Rambler email is an interesting email. This is where it can be long. It usually is longer than short. But by the time I'm done reading this email, I'm scratching my head and I'm like, what? Like, what was the message? Why did they write me? And what do they want me to do now? Because really all they did was ramble on and on about this random thing and that random thing, and they didn't really make sense together, but they did in that person's mind. But as a reader, I'm reading this and I'm like, I don't understand what this email is about. Number one, I'm confused because you talked about this way over here and then this way over here. So I don't really understand what this email is about. And I don't know what to do now, which we'll talk about in the best emails. So I tried to not make the best emails a complete flip of the worst emails. So anyways, we got the Rambler coming in at number 3. The number 4 worst type of email is the cold email. Now, I recognize that we have to reach out to people who have never heard from us, right? This is, in the olden days, we used to call this a cold contact, and I'll call that a cold email. And that's where somebody's coming at you from left field and it's like, I don't know who you are or why or what. Or so when you're writing a cold contact email, you have to be careful. And I talk about this in my email course, Effective Email Communication, to set up a context and to set up the who I am and why I'm messaging you and why this is relevant to you. So when I write this as bad number 4, I'm not saying that you can never email people that you've never emailed before. That's not the message. The message is when you jump right into it without giving me any context, okay? And the context could be as simple as, hey, I was talking to John, who you know, and John said that I should reach out to you. Or I saw you at this networking event. Remember back in the olden days, March of 2020 and before, when we could actually go to networking events. So give me some context. Where did you come across my information? Was it my LinkedIn profile? Did we meet in person? Did somebody tell you about me? Did you see something that I wrote online? You know, give me any context so that this email is not this totally cold thing. All right, the last one for the worst, and I don't see this very often, although I have one contact who does this every month, is the attachment email. We have been trained nowadays to not open attachments, especially if they're from people we don't know or people we don't trust. But even back 10, 20 years ago, you know, the way the spamming and virusy stuff worked is somebody could open an attachment and it would open up a macro that would go into their email and forward that same attachment to the entire email inbox. And so we got it pounded into our heads in corporate America a long time ago to not, there we go, the attachment email. We got it pounded in our heads a long time ago to not open attachments unless we knew what they were. And so this person that sends me a newsletter as an attachment, I'm thinking like, this goes against every bit of security that I have ever learned or talked about when I was an email administrator. The interesting thing is when I open the attachments, a lot of times there's no reason those things were in an attachment. There's no value add. Sometimes if it's like a multi-page newsletter that's really nicely formatted, I'm like, okay, I understand why they did that. But most of the time I get these attachments, and I'm not talking about attaching a Word document or a spreadsheet that's relevant to the rest of the email. I'm talking about putting your email message in an attachment. And I've seen it and it's ridiculous, and please stop doing it. All right, so those are the 5 worst types of email. The long email, let me go back through this. The long email, the email that doesn't know how to address me appropriately, the email that goes on and on and on, and I'm scratching my head saying, I don't get what this is. The cold email that has no context, and the email that is a security violation. All right, so let's go into the 5 best types of emails. Of course, I said that I wasn't going to try and do a flip-flop like, hey, the long email. Well, of course, do the short email. But one of the things that I pound into the learner on my Pluralsight course, Effective Email Communication, is keep it short. Like there's no reason to go in with a lot of information, especially in the early stages of a relationship or an email string or email communication. Like, let's start out with short and get to the point and not put in what I call superfluous, which is a fun word to say. Don't put in a bunch of superfluous crap. Okay, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read through it. And you have to really think about what the purpose is of your email and then write to that purpose. And usually your purpose is not going to be a list of 12 things. Your purpose is like 1 or 2 things, okay? All right, the second best type of email is what I'll call the one email. And on my notes, I wrote this out as the one topic and the one request. So this goes completely hand in hand with being short. But what I want you to do is have one purpose, one topic, one reason that you're writing that email, right? And then have one call to action, and make the call to action really clear and really obvious. So I've seen emails that have 2, 3, 4, 5 calls to action. And sometimes the calls to action are questions. And so by the time I'm done with the email, I can see like one precise call to action at the very end, but there's like 2 or 3 other calls to action in the rest of the email. And I'm like, okay, I got to go back through this and read this to make sure I'm not missing what I'm supposed to do, right? That gets too confusing. And so once again, these are really general guidelines. I feel very strongly about them, of course. You can have more than one call to action. You can have more than one topic, but if you can, I prefer that one email has one topic and one call to action. I talk a lot about the call to action and how to properly structure it and where to put it and how to frame it, how to phrase it in the Pluralsight course. The next awesome email is the email that you didn't send. This is one of 2. So good 4 is going to be the email you didn't send to. So the first email that you didn't send that is awesome is the one that someone else sent for you. Okay, this is the email that is an introduction. This is the networking email where somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to introduce you to my friend Jason, because what happens when you get an introduction is you get all of the goodness and all of the branding and all of the reputation that that other person has already established to the recipient or recipients. You get all of that transferred to you. It's like they're saying, I trust this person. Please pay attention to them. Please have a conversation with them. Please listen to them. And so it is one of the best ways to network. And it's one of the best types of emails, which is the first type of email you didn't send. The other best type of email is the email that you didn't send, is the one where you were maybe a little bit out of control. Maybe you were being bad, you were being mean, you were venting, you sent it in a rushed moment when you should not have sent it, right? This is an email, and I've done this before, where I was really upset with someone or at someone or about something, and I would write this email, and it was scathing. And sometimes I hit the send button, and I've talked about one where I hit the send button on one, and my business coach at the time, it was actually a blog post, and my business coach came back to me with a multi-page email saying, don't ever do that again, and here's why. Well, one of the best types of emails, I mean, sometimes you just got to write it down, right? You gotta get it out of your brain. But the thing is, you don't have to send it. You don't have to be that person. You don't have to make that a part of your brand. Are you right? Probably. Were you wronged? I'm sure you were. Does it suck? Did you feel bad? Of course. I mean, nobody loves it when we're wronged and when we're stepped on. But take a breath, maybe even sleep on it before you really decide to pull the trigger on that, because it could be detrimental. One of the last times that I did this, I lost a friendship, a multi-year friendship over this. And it's because it was for multiple reasons, but one reason was because I really should have just slept on it before I sent it. So one of the best types of emails is the one that you didn't send, and that's the one that's going to make you come out to be a jerk, and it can impact your career and relationships, etc. All right, the last one that I'll say is the email that you did send. This is that email that's an apology. It's an email that's a kudos. It's an email that's a congratulations, and I'm proud of you, and look what you've done, and great accomplishment. These are things that can impact your brand and your networking, your relationships. This nurtures individual relationships, which I talk a lot about. Even if it's something that's been sitting in your inbox for weeks or months or years, and you feel like it's way too long overdue, you can still figure out a way to appropriately send the right email. Also, the email that you did send might be one of the hardest emails that you ever send in your life, right? This is something that you're afraid to communicate out to someone else because of who they are or what the topic is, but it's the right thing to do. And you got to be strong, you got to be courageous, and you got to send it. And it's hard. I know it's hard, but these are some of the best emails. So let me just review those real quick. Hold on, let me go back. So on the good side, we have the short email, the one email, which is one topic, one call to action. We have the email that somebody else did an introduction for you. We have the email that you're not going to send because it's going to make you out to be a jerk, and it's going to burn bridges and cause problems. And then it's the email that took courage, or it's the email that took a little bit of time and a little bit of thought. Those are 5 of the best types of emails to counter 5 of the worst types of emails. Again, my course on Pluralsight is effective communication. There should be a link in the description of this video. Also, you get free Pluralsight for the month of April in 2020 take advantage of that. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on that. We still have a solid 2.5 or 3 weeks that you get full free access to Pluralsight. So go take advantage of that. Before they've ever done this, from like a Friday to a Monday. And so this is pretty awesome to have all of April. If you're watching this after April of 2020, you can reach out to me, jason@jibberjabber.com, and I'll see if I can't find a 30-day pass for you. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about 2 of my courses, both of which talk about teams, building teams and being a better teammate, team worker. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, same time. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you then.